Hello everyone, so I'm back today to talk about a little topic called protective anger, and I have learned so much about this topic. So protective anger is kind of like, when an injustice has been done and we would benefit from saying to ourselves, okay, hang on a second, that's not right, that shouldn't have been done, that shouldn't have been said, I deserve better than that. So it's like saying to yourself, okay, I'm going to actually stay true to myself and know that just because someone said this or did this to me, it doesn't mean that's a reflection of my worth. So that's what it means to have protective anger. It's to say, hang on a second, I'm not going to take this, and proceeding from there. It's all about remembering your worth and building up that sense of inner strength and inner power in times where we really need it the most. So anger is a natural protective response when something happens to us in our lives. So for example, it could be when there's been an injustice or when someone has said or done something to us that's been really hurtful and that's just not on. So it's really important to sometimes have this protective anger. But what I realised from years of working with clients now is that us Irish women especially, I know because I am one and because I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of them at this stage, I see there's such a great need to build what we call protective anger. Because what happens is very often we find ourselves in situations where someone has said or done something to us and we tap into this it's almost like we, end up saying, oh, well, they didn't mean it, or, having all this empathy for them, and it leans into us not acknowledging our own feelings. We end up dismissing ourselves because we're thinking, oh, well, they didn't mean it, or oh, especially those of us who are really, really compassionate and we have a lot of empathy for others, we have to be careful there because we can end up leaning into that feeling where we're all about them, forgiving them, but we're not thinking, well, does this serve me? Is this okay for me? So that's why having that little bit of protective anger can be so, so, so powerful. So powerful. And I help my clients every single day, different clients I work with, build up protective anger where there's a need. Now, some people obviously they need to tone down the anger a bit and they need to have more compassion. That's a story for a whole other day. It's all depending on, who we are and what way we express anger. So it's healthy to get in touch with that, to know what ways do we express anger. Do we hide it, repress it? There's two ways usually I say to people that we respond to anger. So the two ways are, number one, we can act it out, and number two, we can suppress it. So when it comes to acting it out, that could be like, it could come in the form of criticizing, blaming, using insults, sarcasm, all those things, threatening people, physical, even violence. But that's on the one side of it. Then that's acting out. Then there's also suppressing. So when it comes to suppressing, which is the one which a lot of us do, we push it back somewhere in our psyche. We pretend almost, not pretend, it's almost like sometimes it's unconscious, but we just don't acknowledge the anger. Because let's face it, very often as young girls in Ireland especially, we are taught not to acknowledge anger. It's almost like boys are okay to be angry, but girls were taught to just comply, be complicit, be obedient, be a good little girl. But where does the anger go? Because anger is an emotion we all feel sometimes. So where does it go then if we repress it and suppress it? It goes far off into our psyche somewhere and it comes out somewhere else. What's pushed back and repressed always comes back around in another way. And this is what I see with a lot of my clients as well. They don't identify or name or express their anger, and where does it go then? It often ends up as well, sadly, in people turning the anger in towards themselves. When anger is not expressed in a healthy way, in a positive way, and when it's not expressed at all, sometimes it can be turned inwards on ourselves, in the sense that it comes out through negative self-talk, negative self-dialogue. We can become very critical of ourselves, we can be very self-berating, and this is really where it's damaging. So a healthy expression of anger is so powerful. For me over the years, listen to the likes of Beyonce's Lemonade album, Rihanna, Unapologetic, all of these albums that these powerful females have made that were so influential in my early 20s. I feel like they really did literally help me tap into that protective anger at times in my life when I was going through certain things. And I'm really glad now that they were there, because it's almost like sometimes we can't be what we can't see, that phrase. And even them putting that expression on words and emotions and language, it can help us relate to it and it resonates with us. And we can help free up a little bit of anger in ourselves or any residual emotion. And honestly, it's a gateway to peace. When you allow your emotion, when you identify it, name it, express it, then you can feel a lot of peace. So the three things to do there, what to do in terms of embracing and building protective anger, I would say it's number 1 to identify the anger or the emotion, number 2 name it, label it, and then number 3 express it and communicate it. So it's, as we go through life, being mindful of this, you know, that sometimes it's really powerful to embrace anger and build up that protective anger. It's like, you know, if a child is being bullied in school, it's almost like what you want is the parent to say, hang on a second, I'm going to go in there and talk to the principal. I'm not letting my child go through this. You know, we need to help them. So it's that protective anger they build up for the child. We need to have that for ourselves sometimes too. Because girls, we know there's not always going to be someone else in our corner doing it for us. Sometimes you're going to have to do it yourself. So be your own best friend there, and just being there for yourself. And also don't underestimate the power of speaking to someone that you know and trust about this, because honestly, or getting a coach or a therapist, because honestly, some of my most empowering moments came after talking to coaches and therapists about what I was going through, and then they could really help name it. When they validated it, it was amazing. So don't underestimate that. Don't try and do it alone. Sometimes we do need someone to bounce things off and to validate things for us, and that can make the world of difference, I promise you. So that comes to the end. That brings us to the end of my video today on building protective anger. I just want to say there's so much more I could say on this, but I just wanted to introduce the topic today, and I hope it helped. If you like this video, or even if you didn't like it at all, please leave a comment. Let me know. I'm always open to hearing your feedback. And don't forget to like and subscribe as well. I'm sending so much love, everybody. Have a lovely weekend. Talk soon.